The attendance was 11,663. We did a gate of $1.2 million. The fight of the night was Barboza versus Felder. I would like to say that it was tough because I really like the Saunders versus Robertson fight too, and I will take care of those two. And the two performances of the night were Dillashaw and Lawler. And again, put a pin in James Krause. That was up for it too. He looked awesome tonight. That's all I got. What do you got?
Welcome to summer in Chicago instead of January.
It's crazy, yeah.
Much better, right?
It's a lot tougher to get in the restaurants in the summer.
Yeah, but it's not 30 below.
No, it's nice. I like it.
So talk about your bantamweight champ, because now we've seen him do this twice now against a guy that was obviously unbeatable before.
Yep. I had some questions about Renan Barao coming into this fight. I didn't think he looked great in his last fight, but he looked great tonight, and so did TJ, and it was awesome. The kid was putting together combinations. He stood in the pocket. He didn't use as much movement as he did last time. He stood in the pocket and he traded, and he ended up getting the better of him.
Can you think of another time where we've had a guy that was so basically disregarded before the first fight? He was like a 12-1 underdog or whatever, and just dominated, and then he's kind of become kryptonite for a guy that was so dominant before.
Yeah, and I think he was a 2-1 favorite tonight, or
right.
close to it. I don't know. Yeah, going into that fight, everybody thought it was a joke that we were doing Barao versus Dillashaw, and here we are. Who was the what? Dillashaw, 2-1.
Co-main event. Can we assume now that Misha is next in line 100% for sure?
Yeah, she is.
For the winner.
It's Misha is such a durable human being. She will stand in front of you and take what you got, because she was getting picked apart in that first round, and she keeps coming forward to land what she has to land, or get you to the ground, or do what she has to do to win. And she did it again tonight, and she has worked her way back to Ronda Rousey.
And if you could talk real quick about the Barboza-Felder fight, there are people on social media saying, dude, put this thing together like 3 times a year. They want to see it over and over again.
Yeah, it was sick. I was saying, I saw stuff tonight I've never seen before with those two. It was a really cool technical fight, and it was awesome. And fight of the night.
If I could go to Misha real quick, congrats on the win.
Thank you.
Talk about the first 2 or 3 minutes or so, because as Dana said, you were getting, I wouldn't call it lit up, but you were getting hit pretty good, and then after that, like 12 minutes of pretty much dominance.
Yeah, I just made an adjustment. I realized what she was doing. She was waiting for me to swing, and then she would dodge it, and she's counter-striking really well. So, she was doing her game plan, which was, to play the Matador, and I was like, okay, well, then I'm going to stop being that kind of bull. I'm going to start playing the game the other way around, making her miss, counter-strike a little bit myself, So I made the adjustment, and I realized that when she slipped back just a little bit, I was like that short from landing the right hand. So all I did was like duck, slide in, and then throw the right hand, and it started landing, So I made the adjustment there.
You're obviously in a unique situation kind of in this sport. We've got such a clear number one, but you've proven yourself to be such a clear number two so far above everybody else below you. Where does that put you mentally in your state of mind looking forward, especially with what's going on next week?
Well, I feel like I made some really necessary changes this camp, and one of the biggest ones is becoming a better athlete. I feel like I added my strength and conditioning program at phase 1, and I felt so much stronger and so much more powerful. I felt like the power I was able to deliver behind my hands is absolutely necessary, for not only Ronda, but anyone that I'm fighting, but especially Ronda, now that I'm looking forward to that. She doesn't like to be hit, and, I need to be able to deliver that finishing power on the feet.
And then if you could, both you and Brian real quick, talk about being able to corner each other tonight, and especially for you, the difference that made going into your fight knowing that he had already won and looked very good.
Well, I was prepared to put it behind me either way, So once he won, it was great. But I knew that no matter what happened, that I was going to separate my fight from his fight emotionally, And that's something that we get a lot of practice with, anyways. Like being a couple inside the gym, we have to separate things. So it's something that I feel like I'm really good at. And it's not the first time we fought on the same card together, but it is the first time that we fought in the UFC together and cornered each other in the same night. So there was some, it was a little more stressful than normal, but we were both super motivated. And I felt like I had a lot of positive energy going into it.
I actually didn't want her to corner me. I was worried, I didn't want her to have adrenaline dump at all, just from the crowd or seeing everything. And or if something happened to my fight, I didn't want her to worry or have, even if she was, mentally okay, I didn't want that natural hormone to have that adrenaline dump and affect her in her fight. But, she told me, she's like, you've always been there, for me, always, I'm going to be there for you no matter what. And I wasn't going to argue with her. You don't argue with her. So she
That's
came
how
out,
we
and
roll.
it was awesome.
This question's for Joe. Joe right here. Congrats on the win. Can you just talk about the ending of the fight and when it really happened with Herb Dean and how it kind of looked weird in live and on TV?
I think I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. I hit him a couple times. So when I had his back, I spread him out, and I think I tore something in his groin or something because he was fighting pretty hard, and then he let out kind of like a squeal, and then he was like completely went flat. So I felt like I'd taken the life out of him. Hit him a couple times. I thought he was unconscious. Like I thought he was out, and yeah, he looked out. And so Herb Dean was like right there. So I figured when he's unconscious, like I thought I would just beat him a little bit to actually putting his hands on me. I walked away, and then he's kind of looking at him and checking him out, and I'm like, he's not going to stop this. So then I started to kind of run over, and then before I got there, he waved me off.
Question for Dana. Hennon's lost twice now to TJ. What do you do with Hennon? Do you want him to stay at 35? Or do you want him to go to 45? Or are you going to let him make that decision himself?
Yeah, that's obviously his decision, but I think it would be a good idea to go up and weight. He's been having problems with the weight. He didn't have problems yesterday. He made the weight easy, but he looks really drawn out and dry when he cuts weight, so he should probably move up.
Did you think that affected his performance at all? Or does it seem like in the middle of the second round, you could tell he was starting to get tired?
I don't know. It's weird because there's situations where when a guy loses a certain fight a certain way, he's never the same. It happened to Meldrick Taylor and a million other guys in boxing, and it almost looks like that happened to Hennon.
And a question for Misha right over here. Are you going to go to Brazil? Because I remember when I was talking to Jessica last week, she said if she won, she was going to go down to Brazil for the fight with Ronda and Betch. Are you going to do the same thing, or are you just going to watch the fight at home?
I kind of have to talk to the big boss because, I like to set the cup down a little bit. I'm always down to do anything that they ask, but it's Brian's birthday weekend that weekend, so we kind of want to celebrate a little bit, but we'll talk it out. We'll see what happens.
And one final question, a question for Paul. And I saw you when you were walking by press row, and you just looked really dejected. You just seemed like you were just mad at the world and reading some of your stuff in the emails. And has your mood changed at all since the end of the fight? And if it didn't, what do you feel went wrong in the fight?
Yeah, the mood has changed a little bit. Getting a little extra money doesn't hurt, but I'm here to win, man. I thought in the moment you don't know. These fights are so close, and with a guy like Edson, it's just I left it in the hands of the judges. I didn't capitalize when I needed to capitalize. The third round, I took off like an idiot, and I tried a takedown, which is never my game plan. And he scored a lot in that third round, so I know what I did wrong, and that won't happen again.
Is it me? For you, Misha, you kind of already spoke about this, but you did knock her down twice tonight, and you talked about your punching power. Would you say that is just clearly the biggest difference in your game, from like 2 years ago when the last time you fought Ronda?
Yeah, for sure. And not only the punching power, but the conditioning to continue to throw the punching power all 3 rounds. Sometimes you throw power and you're not really conditioned for it, and you gas out of the first round because it's like, man, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of energy and it takes a lot of strength to be able to do that. But with the new strength and conditioning program, I felt like I was able to deliver the same power in the first round and the same power in the third round.
What's it like starting to get the idea that you might happen to be thinking about Ronda Rousey a lot in the next coming months, talking about her again and preparing for her? It was something that was like you almost needed a break from Rousey after I think the last one, right? Are you ready to dive back into that?
Yeah, for sure. I'm always ready. I love punching around in the face.
Do you ever think about the her declining to shake your hand? I mean, do you ever still think about that? That was like a big symbolic thing for I think a lot of people watching that. For you, do you still care? I mean, did you ever really care about it?
Well, I mean, it's just Ronda, it's just something you just have to accept. Like, that's who she is. Like, I didn't really expect her to do it, but it's just like, it's my choice to extend my hand. I feel like that's an important part of our sport, but she doesn't, and we have many bigger differences than that.
And last question for you: do you give Betch any chance next weekend?
I mean, Betch is undefeated. I think everyone in this sport has a chance. You know what I mean? She's 9-0. She's been beating girls, so I mean, there's always a chance, you know. But who do I think's going to win the fight? I think that Ronda's going to win the fight. I just think that Ronda's proven herself to be fighting better competition, and you know, this is a big step up for Betch. You know, kind of early on in her career, and I just feel like she's maybe biting off a little more than she can chew. But you know, she's got to take the opportunity. It's there, so why not? You know.
A question for Misha. You brought Duda Jankovic to your training camp this time. Can you talk about how she helped you in your stand-up game?
Well, Duda Jankovic is a former 6-time boxing world champion, so sparring with her kind of was the same. You know, it helped me get ready for what I anticipated with Jessica. And I got a lot of good boxing rounds in her and was able to kind of pick her brain, or, you know, what she thought was going to happen. And it turned out to be pretty spot on, so it was definitely good to have her out.
And question for Barbosa. I'm going to ask in Portuguese, sorry. Edson, você pode falar um pouquinho como é que foi ali o momento da luta? Você saiu um pouco machucado, né? Mas você conseguiu a vitória, foi da forma como você queria, a estratégia foi certinha?
Question for Edson now. Could you tell us how the fight went? In the beginning of the fight, it was a pretty tough fight. Could you explain us how it went?
Foi exatamente o que eu estava esperando. Eu treinei para isso, treinei para uma guerra e como foi? Realmente foi uma ótima luta. Agora é voltar para academia, aprender mais, melhorar para a próxima luta. Eu tenho certeza que vou estar melhor ainda.
It was a fight I was expecting. It was a war. I knew it was going to be a war. And now I'm going back to the gym and get ready for the next one.
Joe, you said that you felt like you gave up, or you got up really quickly when you thought the fight was over. It kind of looked like Herb Dean stepped in and he was about to stop the fight, but then he backed out. Did you see that as well, and did that play a part in you getting up?
I thought he was stopping the fight. I really did. I mean, he was right on top of me. He didn't put his hands on me, which I guess that's what I should have waited for, but Gomi was clearly unconscious. He's face down. Like, I'm hitting him in the head a couple times. He's not moving at all. So I thought there was no doubt in my mind at that moment that the fight was over. But then I got up and walked away, and then Herbert kind of looking at him, and, you know, it looked like he was trying to make a decision. So then I started kind of coming back. But I thought it was over. I normally wouldn't stop unless I was 100% sure.
And question for Misha. Do you have a preference of an opponent, whether it be Rousey or Correa? Is it more appealing to maybe fight Correa the first time than Rousey for a third time? Or are you really looking to get that win over Rousey?
Well, I mean, it's a bigger goal to get a win over Ronda, you know, but I mean, in the big picture, my biggest goal is getting gold, you know, so, you know, gold around my waist. I want to be able to say before I retire that I was the UFC world champion. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who has the belt. That's the biggest goal.
I guess also for Misha, you said you wanted to get some momentum in this fight and get a stoppage. Do you feel like you still got what you needed to go forward in the next fight?
I mean, I still won, but I'm definitely really disappointed that I didn't get the finish. But, you know, it was definitely clear that, to me, that Jessica didn't want to, like, participate on the ground at all. You know, she was, you know, doing lockdown with her legs. And even when, you know, I had her back, you know, couldn't get the gloves out, got those mittens on and couldn't get them out. You know, she was just holding on so she could get the stand up again. But, you know, I didn't get it, and it's frustrating. But she's a really tough girl, and she proved that tonight. She's not an easy person to finish, you know, so that's okay. I still feel like I showed a lot of improvements in my game and in the necessary areas of my game that I really needed to improve.
This one's for Tom. It's been a long layoff for you since you've been in the octagon. Just if you could say how it feels to be back again, and what are your plans for your next fight?
Well, it feels pretty good. If I would have lost, I'd have a different opinion, I'm sure. You know, one of the biggest things, the biggest problem I thought I was going to run into was being able to relax. But before the fight, I was pretty much the most relaxed I've ever been, perhaps too relaxed. You know, maybe it's because I can't, you know, do a crazy walkout anymore. And, you know, maybe the UFC should have taken that away from me a little bit earlier in retrospect, because the performance worked out well for me. You know, I'm going to go back home, put on a little bit of weight. You know, John Vellante, big dude, hit me really hard. I think he rocked me right before I was able to knock him out. So, you know, I'm going to go hit up some Vegas buffets and get up to about 230 so that I can get back on track and cut back down to 205 and stay there.
My question is for Paul. This is the first loss on your record. How devastating it is, or it's sort of maybe already synced in? How are you feeling emotionally and mentally?
I mean, I'm a little better now because I'm here. The fight got recognized, for how tough it was, but it doesn't. I mean, I'll be honest, it doesn't make it any easier getting that first loss on my record. I was really, really, really upset when I walked off out of the cage and backstage. But moving forward, I got that out of the way now. I fought a guy that's in the top 10 on my third UFC fight, and I took it out of nowhere. Like, yeah, let's go. 7 weeks. I don't care. Let's fight. I'm here to fight the best guys, and he's clearly one of the best guys, and I knew it would be a stand-up battle, and we were fully prepared to do it and win. But, I mean, Edson's a tough SOB, man. He showed that, and, I got that first L, and now I'm just going to have to get a whole lot more W's. That's all.
What do you take from this loss, and what do you need to adjust moving forward?
Never, ever, ever pull my foot off the gas again. That's it. Even move forward even more. He's a tough guy, and and nothing against him. He did his job. He was doing great as well. But I felt myself just kind of pull back a little bit, and that allowed him to start landing those leg kicks. And that, I'll be honest, in the third, I ate a few that hurt really bad, and I fought through it. But if I had maybe moved forward a little bit more, maybe worked a little bit more to push the wrestling pace and get in his face a little more, it might have been a different decision. But it is what it is, and I know that now. So now, even if I get knocked out, I'm still going to just be moving forward and not take a loss on a decision.
And this one probably both to Brian and Misha. Do you think, Brian, that you had to win tonight in order to motivate Misha? Or do you have like personal competition going on, especially when you get together on the same card?
Yeah, I definitely felt more pressured, to win. I was really worried about her. I didn't want her to come corner me because I didn't want her to worry or have an adrenaline dump. And I definitely felt more pressure to win. I think if I would have came back and with a loss, she's very good at separating that, and she's one of the most mentally tough athletes that I've ever met in my life. But, coming back with a good win, it was definitely, it's definitely motivating. Everybody's morale in our camp was high, and we were pumped, and I think that makes a difference.
Yeah, I like I said, I mean, I think I already answered this a little bit earlier, but I was prepared to separate it either way, so it was great that he won, and I mean, I was happy about it, but I kind of already, right when we went back to the room, put it behind me like I was going to no matter what, and the gears just switched from his fight to my fight. It was, my turn to go out and perform, and we just switched gears.
And my last one to you as well. In the first rounds of the fight, you were trying to do takedown attempts with your opponent, but what landed her down is the punch. Were you what was your plan going into the fight?
Well, that's still a takedown, so it's like, I switched it from a double leg to a right hand, and that's okay. But I tried to shoot in a little bit, but I feel like maybe I wasn't quite committed enough to it. But as soon as I felt like myself adjust and I heard my corners, telling me, hey, my striking coach was saying, hey, get your jab out there, throw some jabs. And then, I made the range adjustment, and, Brian was like, hey, put your head in your chest and throw. You've got a lot of power behind those hands. And I did that, and then I made the adjustments, and I didn't feel like the urgency to have to take her down. I'm like, hey man, I can put this girl away on her feet. It would be nice to get a knockout, so I knocked her down 2 times, and it's kind of addicting in a fight. You knock someone down hard like that the first round, you're like, ooh, it's like smelling blood, so I was pretty excited about that.
Question for Edson again. I just want to know what you're going to do with your bonus.
Perguntou, o que você vai fazer com o bônus?
I don't know, yeah. I don't... não caiu a ficha ainda.
It hasn't dawned on me yet. I can't.
I think I have a son, little son. I think now I have to think about my future, I think about my son, but I don't know, yeah.
And TJ, can you talk a little about your win? How did you feel Barao inside the octagon if you compare with the first fight?
He brought it. He brought it the first round. He came out the first 30 seconds and it was swinging. He set the pace fast early, and I almost went a little bit too fast because of it. And I should have been a little bit more controlled, but it was a fun fight.
You seem that you were really enjoying yourself inside the octagon. You were smiling. You know, your guard was not even like posted. Can you talk about that? It was a strategy, was something like a mental game that you were playing there, or you were just having fun?
I think it's just something I've learned now with experience, and that's how I perform better, is enjoying myself instead of putting so much pressure on yourself to win, to be in there, to soak everything up, to enjoy the crowd, not to have tunnel vision, to really enjoy being in there every second.
DJ, geez, guy. That's like crazy. I mean, we didn't expect that out of you a year and a half ago.
Mm-hmm.
Did you expect that out of yourself this time around? You won all 3 rounds, but as you said, it was maybe a little bit tougher this time, but you still look pretty dominant in there.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely expect to dominate the fight. You know, I felt that I was a faster athlete, and I had the skills to beat him. So yeah, I expected myself to win every round. I knew he's tough. You know, I mean, he's a very tough fighter, and I knew he was going to bring it. But I'm of course going to believe in myself to win every round.
Would you say that you're the same fighter today that you were before that first fight, or did you need that first fight to put yourself over some kind of a hill to the next level?
I mean, it definitely helped with my confidence. You know, that first fight against him definitely helped for me to believe in what I'm doing is the right things. You know, what I'm training is the right way. The drills that I'm doing, everything. You know, everything I'm doing is working. So it definitely helps.
And speaking of things that are working, you spent the majority of your camp, I believe, in Colorado. You looked fresh throughout. He looked like he was getting tired midway through the second round. How much do you attribute training, you know, at altitude to that for you?
I mean, it helped. You know, I've always kind of had good cardio. How much I work and how professional I take this sport, and my nutrition's on point. My strength conditioning's on point. You know, I don't take any shortcuts, so I'm always going to be in shape. I mean, altitude helped. You know, it was hard to deal with when I first got up there. You know, I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to deal with the altitude. I split my camp up half and half, I did more of it in the beginning in Sacramento, and then we did more towards the end in Denver because of dealing with the altitude.
TJ right here.
Yeah.
We were talking, I think it was last week, and you were saying you were hoping, you couldn't wait for this to finally end, this chapter, the 14-month journey to be over. Now that it's over, how do you feel?
I feel great, man. I mean, I won. You know, I finished with a knockout, and I brought it once again. So, I mean, I feel good.
Chapter feels good. The chapter's gone. Now you feel refreshed. You can start thinking ahead.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can train to beat someone else now.
Talking about someone else, who do you want next now? You beat Barao. 35 is pretty wide open. So if you had a preference, who would you like to get in there with next?
You know, I mean, it's so hard for me to think about someone else. And I've been thinking about Renan Barao for over a year and a half, you know. But, you know, we got guys like Dominic Cruz, Rafael Cincel, which they're both great fighters, but they're hurt right now. So whenever they come back, I don't know what the plan is, but I'd like to see either one of those guys. You know, I don't know. I'm not really sure.
I think Dominic needs to get a fight under his belt, and then you could talk about a fight like that because he fought once, got injured again, and he's kind of in a standstill.
It'd be in his favor to do so, I'm sure. You know, I mean, he's been out for a while. I don't know. I could care less either way.
Brett. For TJ, I mean, you kind of just answered my question, but what I was going to ask you is, I would think you would want Cruz. You know, you're a guy
the biggest fight.
Who likes challenges. That's
Yeah.
that's immediately, you know, the first name that everyone's on.
I mean, that's what's going to make my name the biggest is fighting Cruz, I think, you know, at this weight class. Is fighting Cruz, you know, I mean, as soon as he's able to come back.
I mean, how do you feel you match up with him? Everybody talks about that style. You know, you guys move around so much. Can you talk about the way you see it, your perspective of how you two match up?
Yeah, absolutely. He's a very elusive, high-paced fighter as well. I just don't think he has the power behind his punches. You know, I don't think he has the devastating threat that he can impose on someone. You know, I see myself definitely winning that fight.
And if I could, real quick for you, Tom, when you said you were going to jump all the way up to 230, have you ever weighed that much? And do you know how your body's going to react to that? And you?
Yeah, I've weighed that much, but I was a fat piece of crap when I was. I feel good around 220, 225. You know, as training camp goes on and lose a little bit of weight. Came in yesterday at 203, but that was more due to overcutting. You know, I cut about 10 pounds the day before, but I took it a little bit too far. So the goal is, you know, after being in there, I mean, Jean had a size advantage on me for sure. But after being in there, I didn't feel, you know, obviously I hit him pretty hard. So I hit hard enough to stay at 205. I'm just going to put on a little bit more size and stay up there.
Guys, we'll take two more. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, for TJ, we kind of talked about it before you got in here, but
it almost looked like Barao was beat before the fight even started. Did you feel that way too? And at what point did you feel like you really were in control in the fight?
I thought he was beat before the fight until he started. You know, he came out to win, man. He came out aggressive, you know, threw some big bombs, and I think the first 30 seconds, you know, kind of was like, all right, he means business. But as the fight kept going, I kept getting stronger, and he kept getting weaker, I felt.
Thank you.
Any more, guys? All right. Thanks, Chicago. See you guys in Rio.